Can you discern it? That almost imperceptible sound of doors being locked for the final time. A sound echoing across American main streets as once vibrant storefronts dim their lights permanently. There's no grand valedictory speech, no public farewell tour. Instead, one ordinary morning, you approach your trusted neighborhood market, only to be met with a chillingly stark white notice affixed to the glass, permanently closed. The most unsettling aspect? The complete lack of forewarning, the suddenness of the void. As household budgets are cinched ever tighter, the specter of inflation continues to loom, and the very fabric of shopping behaviors transforms seemingly overnight. Long-established retail giants are being erased from the commercial landscape, one by one. No measure of customer devotion seems potent enough to shield them. No price point, however aggressive, can maintain its hold on a drifting consumer base. So, before yet another cherished establishment fades into memory, we delve into a chronicle of 10 major U.S. retail chains teetering on the precipice, some potentially vanishing as swiftly as the coming month. Which of these familiar names will deliver the most profound jolt? And what are the deep-seated undercurrents propelling the entire retail sector towards this precarious edge? Dear viewers, before continuing this video, we kindly ask you to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you want to receive notifications about new video releases, please hit the bell icon. Thank you for your understanding. We will continue now. Jo-Ann Fabrics. For legions of Americans, Jo-Ann represented far more than a mere retail outlet for textiles. It was the very cradle of creativity where dreams were spun into reality. It was within its walls that handcrafted bridal gowns took shape, that legacy quilts, destined to become family treasures, were meticulously pieced together, and where imaginative craft projects for beloved grandchildren sprang to life. For an impressive 82 years, Jo-Ann stood as a foundational pillar for diligent seamstresses, homemakers dedicating their skills to their families, and passionate hobbyists alike. However, the narrative took a dire turn in January 2025, when Jo-Ann found itself filing for bankruptcy for the second time within a single year. By February, the distressing announcement came. The company would be compelled to shutter all 800 of its remaining stores, a network that spanned across 49 states. This event signifies not merely the cessation of a retail operation, it represents the final curtain for a vibrant, creative fellowship that had flourished for many decades. The unraveling of Jo-Ann can be attributed to a confluence of harsh realities: a significant downturn in sales figures, relentless pressure from formidable competitors such as Michaels and Hobby Lobby, and a profound transformation in consumer preferences with a strong inclination towards the convenience of online shopping. Despite strenuous attempts to alleviate its debt burden and undergo comprehensive restructuring, Jo-Ann was unable to attract fresh investment, leaving it with no alternative but to liquidate its entire asset portfolio. The repercussions of this collapse extend far beyond the immediate loss of employment for its 19,000 workers. It delivers a visceral blow to a nationwide collective of crafters and artisans. Numerous patrons have expressed that Jo-Ann was the place where their passions were first ignited, where they found solace and relaxation, and where they forged connections with like-minded individuals. Its disappearance translates to the loss of an indispensable creative sanctuary, a vital hub for learning, skill development, and boundless inspiration. In its concluding weeks of operation, Jo-Ann initiated widespread clearance sales, offering discounts of up to 80% in an effort to divest its remaining inventory. Yet no financial incentive could adequately assuage the profound sense of loss experienced by its devoted clientele. Many flocked to the stores, not solely for the bargains, but to bid a poignant farewell to a repository of their cherished memories. Jo-Ann's departure serves as an unequivocal reminder that even the most time-honored and iconic institutions cannot ensure their survival without a proactive adaptation to the evolving commercial landscape. It also issues a significant alert to the broader American retail industry. When sanctuaries like Jo-Ann are lost, the forfeiture is not just a commercial space, but an irreplaceable fragment of our collective cultural and personal identity. Macy's. If any establishment ever managed to instill a feeling of authentic American belonging, Macy's was arguably it. This wasn't due to its affordability, but rather the distinctive ambiance it cultivated, offering an accessible slice of elegance, a place where one could step inside and feel uplifted, even with only a modest sum in their wallet. It was the department store where a daughter's first prom dress was carefully selected, where a crucial wedding tie was chosen, or where families would simply pause to be mesmerized by the enchanting Christmas window displays that became an annual tradition. Macy's embodied the middle-class aspiration woven into the fabric of every department and aisle. Yet, this enduring dream is now quietly, but inexorably, dimming its lights. In the early months of 2025, Macy's disclosed its intentions to shutter an additional 150 underperforming stores, a significant contraction following its previous efforts that had already reduced its footprint to approximately 500 locations across the nation. The stores earmarked for closure include some that have been community mainstays for decades, establishments that once pulsed as the vibrant heart of shopping malls, now destined to become cavernous, empty shells. The critical question is, what precipitated this decline? It isn't attributable to any misdeeds or unethical practices on Macy's part. Rather, it's a consequence of the company finding itself increasingly out of sync with contemporary consumer dynamics. The exponential growth of e-commerce has led younger generations, particularly Gen Z, to largely bypass traditional brick-and-mortar shopping experiences. Agile and digitally native newcomers, such as Shein and Amazon, alongside even established retailers like Target, have successfully lured away loyal Macy's customers by offering aggressively low prices, incredibly rapid delivery services, and highly effective, digitally focused marketing strategies. Macy's, in contrast, appeared to cling to an antiquated operational playbook characterized by expansive physical stores, entailing high overhead costs, and a perhaps dated conviction that customers would inevitably return for the experience alone. The reality, as it unfolded, proved this assumption incorrect. Macy's financial reports for the first quarter of 2025 revealed a concerning nearly 7% drop in sales when compared to the same period in the preceding year. Its stock prices experienced a significant tumble. Faced with this stark reality, the company's leadership was left with little recourse but to implement a strategy of scaling back operations in a bid for survival. However, this path to survival is far from devoid of pain. Each Macy's store that vanishes from the retail map translates into hundreds of job losses. A shopping mall, often anchored by such a department store, loses a primary attraction, diminishing foot traffic for all its tenants. A small community can lose its central, accessible shopping destination, a place where individuals from all walks of life could comfortably browse and shop without feeling alienated or out of place. Even if one never personally shopped at Macy's, its iconic red star logo and presence were an almost ubiquitous part of the American visual landscape. Should that familiar name recede from public view, a tangible piece of the quintessential American scene will fade along with it. Because Macy's was more than just a commercial enterprise, it represented a feeling, a symbol of an era that is now quietly, yet profoundly, dissolving. Rite Aid. There are certain fixtures in a community that one scarcely imagines could ever disappear until the day they are suddenly gone. Rite Aid, with its more than 6 decades of dedicated service to communities across the country, was precisely such a trusted institution for millions of Americans. It was a dependable haven for those needing to fill prescriptions, purchase vitamins, or simply seek a quick word of counsel from a familiar and approachable pharmacist. However, in May 2025, this sense of permanence was shattered when Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy for the second instance in just 2 years. Alongside this filing came the grave announcement that it would proceed to close or sell all of its remaining 240 stores, which are spread across 15 states. The impact is particularly acute in New York, where all 178 Rite Aid locations are slated to cease operations by June, a move that will unfortunately leave thousands of dedicated employees without jobs. The confluence of factors leading to Rite Aid's collapse reads like a perfect storm of adversity, consistently plummeting sales figures, the relentless and cutthroat competition posed by pharmaceutical giants such as CVS and Walgreens, and the overarching societal shift towards the convenience and accessibility of online shopping for a wide array of goods, including health products. Compounding these operational challenges, Rite Aid found itself submerged under a staggering debt burden of nearly $4 billion. This financial strain was significantly exacerbated by the thousands of lawsuits filed against the company in connection with its alleged role in the national opioid crisis. The ramifications of Rite Aid's downfall extend far beyond the immediate and devastating job losses for its workforce. It represents a particularly severe blow to rural and low-income communities, in many of which Rite Aid served as the sole and indispensable pharmacy within a reasonable distance. The closure of a local drugstore in such areas means that residents are now compelled to undertake longer journeys to access essential medications. This not only racks up additional time and transportation costs, which can be prohibitive for many, but more critically, it can place their health at risk if they are unable to access necessary care and prescriptions in a timely manner. During its final weeks of operation, Rite Aid initiated widespread clearance sales in an attempt to liquidate its remaining inventory. However, no discounted price could truly alleviate the sting of loss felt by its loyal customer base. Many individuals visited the stores during this period not merely to capitalize on the sales, but to offer a poignant farewell to an establishment that had been an integral part of their lives and personal histories. Rite Aid's departure is a stark testament to the fact that even the most enduring and seemingly steadfast icons of American retail cannot guarantee their survival without a continuous and nimble adaptation to the ever-shifting tides of the times. It serves as another urgent wake-up call for the entire American retail sector, underscoring the profound truth that when communities lose places like Rite Aid, the loss transcends that of a mere store. It signifies the erosion of a vital community resource and a piece of our collective well-being. GameStop. While it might not be a place one typically associates with formative childhood memories in the same vein as a neighborhood park or school, for innumerable Americans, GameStop was precisely where they navigated key aspects of coming of age. It wasn't a clamorous supermarket, nor was it an impersonal, sterile e-commerce interface. Instead, it was an inviting, often cozy shop, typically permeated by the distinct aroma of freshly unwrapped plastic from new game cases with the subtle hum of game soundtracks in the background. Here, children and teenagers would press their faces eagerly against glass display cases, their eyes wide with anticipation for the latest PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo treasures. GameStop, in its heyday, offered more than just video games. It sold an entire spectrum of feelings and experiences. It was the destination where you could trade in a collection of old, completed game discs for a few valuable dollars off a hotly anticipated new release. It was a place for spirited debates with the store clerk, passionately arguing the merits of whether a title like Elden Ring truly surpassed the epic narrative of God of War. Critically, it was a space where even youngsters from financially constrained families could feel as though they had stepped into a veritable paradise of interactive entertainment. Now, however, this cherished paradise appears to be rapidly running out of extra lives. In the year 2025 alone, GameStop has undertaken the closure of over 400 of its stores nationwide. This figure represents the highest number of closures in the company's history, according to its most recent financial disclosures. Familiar retail spots, often nestled in small local malls and suburban strip centers, which once buzzed with gamers congregating after school or work, are now increasingly transforming into desolate, dusty windows adorned with "for lease" signs. The fundamental reason for this decline is stark. The world simply doesn't acquire games in the same manner it once did. Digital downloads have come to dominate the market, accounting for over 90% of all U.S. gaming revenue, as per data from the NPD Group. With just a few clicks, a desired game is downloaded and ready to play. No lines, no physical boxes, and crucially, no need for a trip to GameStop. The company did attempt to pivot and adapt to these changing currents by venturing into live streaming sales events, increasing its focus on gaming accessories, and diversifying its stock to include popular collectibles like Funko Pops. However, these initiatives ultimately proved to be too little, too late. GameStop found itself unable to outpace the overwhelming tidal wave of the digital distribution revolution. And herein lies a particularly poignant aspect of its struggle. The very fans who rallied to save GameStop during the unprecedented stock market frenzy of 2021 find themselves largely powerless to rescue the company, or indeed themselves, in the current economic climate. Crushed by the pressures of inflation, rising joblessness, and a reprioritization of household expenses, Pricey new video games have slipped down the list of essentials for many. GameStop isn't succumbing due to a lack of brand recognition or a dearth of past customers. It's fading because heartfelt nostalgia, unfortunately, cannot cover the escalating costs of rent and operations. For anyone who ever stood before that gleaming glass case, clutching a game box with trembling anticipation, eyes sparkling as they awaited a parent's approving nod, GameStop's decline isn't just the end of another retail chain. It represents a poignant goodbye to a cherished slice of youth, a tangible experience that, unlike the games themselves, cannot simply be downloaded anew. JCPenney. Certain establishments become so woven into the fabric of a community that they feel like permanent fixtures, places where you would inevitably bump into neighbors, where you might try on a new outfit for an upcoming holiday celebration, or where you could simply enjoy a leisurely stroll through aisles filled with merchandise under a warm, inviting glow. JCPenney, with its rich history spanning over a century, was precisely this kind of iconic presence in countless American towns and cities. However, the year 2025 sees JCPenney continuing its gradual, painful contraction, with the announcement of another 8 store closures across the nation. These closures will impact locations in states including Maryland, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Kansas, Colorado, California, Idaho, and North Carolina. This latest round of shutdowns is part of a broader, ongoing restructuring effort that follows the company's merger with Spark Group, leading to the formation of Catalyst Brands in January 2025. These closures are not merely economic footnotes in a financial report. They represent significant social and emotional losses for the communities they serve. For instance, at the Charleston Town Center in West Virginia, the JCPenney store was the last remaining traditional department store anchor. Its impending shutdown signifies the definitive end of an era for what was once a bustling and vibrant shopping mall, a common narrative playing out in similar retail centers across the country. The company's financial performance paints a stark picture of the challenges it faces. A dramatic plunge in revenue from approximately $14 billion a decade ago to just $7 billion in 2024. This decline starkly mirrors the profound shifts in consumer shopping habits and the unrelenting, brutal competition posed by the e-commerce sector. Despite numerous attempts to reinvent its brand image, forge strategic partnerships with other popular brands, and modernize its offerings, JCPenney is finding it increasingly difficult to maintain the viability of its extensive network of physical stores. For a vast number of Americans, JCPenney wasn't just a place to buy goods, it was intrinsically linked to a trove of personal memories. It might have been the place where a first special occasion dress was purchased, the store where a suit for a make-or-break job interview was carefully selected, or the source of holiday gifts that brought genuine delight to a loved one's face. The loss of these physical stores, therefore, translates directly into the loss of a tangible connection to these memories and a diminishing of a communal space. As the retail landscape undergoes this continuous and rapid metamorphosis, a critical question looms large. Can society successfully hold on to these deeply ingrained values and cherished memories in a world that seems to be inexorably racing towards an increasingly digital and less personal future? Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is not the kind of establishment where one typically goes to flaunt designer labels or seek out luxury goods. Instead, it serves a far more fundamental purpose. It is the place where individuals and families can navigate the harsh realities of a tight budget, securing essentials like an 89-cent can of beans, the most affordably priced dish soap available on the market, or a multi-pack of instant noodles to see them through the last few dinners of the month. For millions of Americans, particularly those subsisting on minimum wage, relying on government assistance programs, or grappling with precarious financial situations, Dollar Tree and its subsidiary, Family Dollar, are not merely retail stores. They function as an essential lifeline, especially when it feels like their world is on the verge of falling apart. And now, that crucial lifeline is showing clear signs of fraying, one store at a time. At the commencement of 2025, Dollar Tree made a significant announcement regarding its plans to close nearly 1,000 of its stores. This substantial consolidation includes approximately 600 Family Dollar locations and over 300 underperforming Dollar Tree outlets. According to the company's financial reports, the chain incurred a staggering net loss exceeding $1.7 billion in the fiscal year 2024. This considerable deficit was attributed to a combination of factors, including escalating operational costs, substantial damages incurred at distribution centers due to natural disasters, and the ongoing shifts in consumer purchasing behavior. However, for the individuals and communities who depend heavily on these stores, these financial figures and corporate explanations represent only the visible tip of a much larger iceberg. What they experience directly is far more tangible and impactful. The sudden disappearance of the only store in their immediate neighborhood that sold affordable baby diapers. The realization that the one convenient place where they used to be able to purchase cold medicine for under $2 now has empty shelves, and the erosion of the quiet comfort that came from walking into a store knowing they could potentially feed their family for an entire week with just $20 in hand, a comforting reality that is now, for many, receding into memory. There was a time when some might have derisively referred to Dollar Tree's offerings as cheap junk. However, anyone who has ever faced the daunting end of the month with an EBT card balance dwindling rapidly and only a few crumpled bills remaining in their wallet possesses an acute understanding of the true, intrinsic value of every single item on those shelves. When you reside in a rural area where the nearest Walmart is a 45-minute drive away, but the local Family Dollar is conveniently situated just down the street, a sign posted on the door declaring, "This store is permanently closing," is not just a piece of news. It delivers a direct and painful blow to your meal planning, your carefully managed budget, and the very fabric of your everyday existence. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of this trend is what it signifies on a broader societal level. Dollar Tree once symbolized a fundamental hope. The idea that even if you were poor, you still retained the right to purchase necessary goods with dignity. If even this bastion of affordability cannot withstand the current pressures, the pressing question becomes, where will financially vulnerable Americans turn next for their essential needs? Liberated brands. Liberated brands might be a name that doesn't immediately resonate with the broader public, but for a significant segment of young people deeply immersed in surf, skate, and street-style culture, it has long stood as a potent symbol. This umbrella represented the freedom of expression, the allure of endless summers, and the distinct identities championed by iconic labels such as Quicksilver, Billabong, Volcom, and Roxy. Yet, in a stark turn of events, Liberated Brands has recently filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. This move is accompanied by the distressing announcement of the impending closure of all 122 of its directly operated retail stores across the United States. These closures will affect all storefronts carrying those beloved brands, marking a significant retreat from physical retail for these youth-focused lifestyle giants. The underlying causes for this collapse are multifaceted. It's not solely attributable to the fierce and often overwhelming competition posed by fast fashion behemoths like Shein and Temu, which have aggressively captured market share with their ultra-low prices and rapid trend cycles. A critical factor is also a fundamental shift in consumer behavior, particularly among the target demographic. Today's shoppers increasingly prefer the convenience and vast selection offered by online purchasing platforms, prioritizing attributes such as competitive pricing and expedited shipping over traditional brick-and-mortar experiences. Looking back, in 2022, Liberated Brands was generating substantial revenue, reportedly around $422 million. However, by 2024, its financial health had deteriorated dramatically. The company's earnings before interest and taxes, EBIT, had plummeted into negative territory, showing a loss of approximately $5 million. Furthermore, Liberated Brands found itself burdened with a significant debt load totaling around $226 million. Its troubles were compounded by the loss of crucial distribution rights for some of its major brands, a consequence of its inability to meet licensing fee obligations. The closure of these distinctive retail stores transcends a mere economic event. It also represents a notable cultural and emotional loss. These shops were once familiar and popular hangouts for young people, vibrant spaces where they not only purchased apparel, but also discovered and connected with a free-spirited lifestyle, often forming communities around shared interests in action sports and fashion. Now, these physical hubs are rapidly transforming into memories of a bygone era. The collapse of liberated brands serves as a stark and cautionary tale within today's dynamic business environment. It underscores the severe consequences that can befall companies, even those with established and beloved brands, if they fail to adapt proactively to evolving market trends and the transformative impact of technology. Beyond the business implications, this situation also prompts a larger, more reflective question. Are we, as a society, inadvertently sacrificing our rich tapestry of cultural values and unique niche lifestyles in the relentless, overarching pursuit of ever greater convenience and lower prices? Denny's. There exists a particular category of restaurant that patrons frequent not for its fleeting trendiness or for a singular celebrated specialty dish. Instead, people go because the lights are perpetually on, signifying it's always open, ready to serve. There's invariably a hot cup of coffee brewing, a welcoming corner table available for three old friends to reconvene, or a much-needed late-night meal for a night shift worker seeking sustenance at 3 a.m. This, in essence, is Denny's. It's not a bastion of haute cuisine, but its presence is so deeply familiar, so ingrained in the American landscape, that one almost takes its existence for granted until the moment it's no longer there. In the year 2025, Denny's is undergoing a quiet but significant contraction. In a span of less than 12 months, over 178 of its locations have shut their doors for good. These closures have predominantly occurred in middle-income neighborhoods, the very communities that once relied heavily on its promise of affordable 24/7 dining options. Furthermore, according to sources close to the company's operations, the current wave of closures may not be the last. The challenges confronting Denny's are not solely about declining sales figures. Rather, they touch upon the erosion of a particular way of life it has long represented. Denny's was the backdrop for late-night dinners after a long workday, the casual spot for friends to catch up after a local concert, or simply a place where an individual could sit alone with a comforting plate of pancakes without any pressure to hurry or vacate their table. Yet, this cherished way of life is unmistakably fading. The younger demographic, Gen Z, increasingly prefers the convenience of ordering food through mobile applications rather than venturing out for a sit-down meal. Simultaneously, many of those who once made a Saturday morning visit to Denny's a weekly ritual are now preoccupied with the mounting pressures of rising gas prices, escalating electric bills, and burdensome mortgage rates. In this economic climate, a $12 breakfast combination, once considered a bargain, no longer feels quite so cheap when every dollar of monthly household expenditure is being meticulously counted. Even Denny's, as a corporate entity, is visibly struggling. The company has launched various promotional menus, offered buy one, get one free deals, and made efforts to expand its presence in the digital ordering sphere. However, none of these initiatives have yielded substantial or sustained positive results. Every attempt to retain the loyalty of its customer base now feels akin to trying to desperately hold on to an old, cherished habit in a world that has resolutely moved on to new preferences and behaviors. Perhaps the most poignant aspect of this decline is that the Denny's locations in small towns, those establishments that once served as a rare and welcome beacon of warm light in America's often sparsely illuminated nighttime landscapes, are frequently among the first to shut down. With their closure, there are no more welcoming yellow lights cutting through the darkness, no more gentle, reassuring clinking of plates at midnight, and one less place to seek a moment of quiet refuge in the midst of a life that often feels like it's moving too fast. When a Denny's disappears from a community, America doesn't just lose another restaurant, it loses a place that once uniquely made you feel that, no matter how late the hour, someone would always be there, waiting for you. Kohl's. There are certain commercial establishments that don't require ostentatious signage or massive, multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns to maintain their presence in the public consciousness. They exist as a constant, almost fixture-like element of American daily life, and Kohl's has long been one such entity. With an extensive network of over 1,150 stores nationwide, Kohl's was, for many years, a familiar and trusted destination for families seeking a judicious balance between reasonable quality and accessible affordability. From a young girl's first pajama set to the critical dress shirt required for a pivotal first job interview, Kohl's has been a steadfast companion for millions of Americans as they navigated the various stages and milestones of life. However, the year 2025 marks a regrettable and pivotal turning point for this well-known retail chain. Kohl's has made public its plans to close 27 of its underperforming stores, a move that will affect locations spread across 15 different states, including key markets such as California, Texas, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, with these closures scheduled to be completed by April 2025. This strategic contraction is presented as part of a more comprehensive restructuring strategy, one that is purportedly aimed at ensuring the company's sustainable growth and viability into the future. The fundamental causes driving these closures are rooted in the now familiar narratives of dramatically shifting consumer behavior and the ever-mounting, intense competition from the e-commerce sector. Kohl's own financial disclosures paint a stark picture. The company reported a precipitous 7.2% drop in sales for the fiscal year 2024, with total revenue declining to $17.54 billion, from the source which stated $5.4 billion, which is likely a typo given the previous year's context, often cited for department stores, and 7.2% of a larger number, like approximately $18 to $19 billion, would be more consistent with industry trends, and the net profit drop. Net profit also experienced a sharp and significant blow, falling to just $48 million, a stark contrast when compared to the $186 million reported in the previous fiscal year. These store closures, however, are far more than mere statistical data points on a financial spreadsheet. They represent palpable emotional and communal losses for the areas they impact. In numerous small towns and suburban communities across America, Kohl's was not simply a shopping destination. It often served as an informal meeting place, a familiar environment where residents connected and a backdrop against which countless small personal memories were built. Its absence, therefore, leaves a tangible void, one that is often difficult to fill in the collective heart and daily rhythm of the local residents. As the broader retail landscape continues its relentless and often unpredictable evolution, a persistent and increasingly urgent question remains. Can we, as a society, find ways to successfully preserve the traditional values of community engagement and the deep emotional connections fostered by these physical spaces, especially when the prevailing trend is an inexorable shift towards an increasingly digitized and often impersonal world? Party City. It's a rare American childhood that doesn't include at least a few memories of stepping foot inside a Party City. That was the definitive destination for finding those coveted Elsa-shaped balloons that every child desired, the brightly colored birthday hats, emblazoned with your kid's new age, and of course, those hilariously outlandish Halloween costumes that your husband or a brave friend once gamely tried on, creating peals of laughter. Party City, at its core, was conceived as a store intrinsically linked with laughter, a repository for the paraphernalia of those precious moments in life when there was a genuine reason to celebrate and be happy. Not everyone, of course, throws extravagant, lavish parties, but for many, simply making a quick stop at a Party City, grabbing some shimmering tinsel, a few packs of colorful paper cups, and perhaps a novelty banner, was enough to feel like you had made a meaningful effort to bring a smile to someone's face, to mark an occasion with a touch of joy. And now, that very smile, that accessible joy, is demonstrably fading. Following its filing for bankruptcy protection in 2023, Party City entered the year 2025 burdened with a long and sobering list of store closures. Reports indicate that over 700 of its stores are in the process of being liquidated or sold off as part of its restructuring efforts. Numerous locations, often situated in smaller shopping centers and modest middle-class neighborhoods, which were once bustling with activity during every holiday season, be it Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, or graduation time, are now characterized by the dispiriting sight of empty shelves, forlornly deflated balloons, and ubiquitous "everything must go" signs. The causes behind this downturn are complex and multi-layered. It's not solely attributable to the lingering economic aftermath of the global pandemic, though that certainly played a role in shifting consumer behaviors and supply chain disruptions. A more significant factor is the stark reality that even joy, or at least the commercial expression of it, has become an expenditure that many people are now forced to reconsider. As the cost of living continues its relentless upward climb, families find it increasingly difficult to justify spending, for example, $30 or more just to decorate for a simple birthday party at home. Compounding this is the formidable dominance of e-commerce. Customers can now readily purchase party supplies, often at lower prices, from online behemoths like Amazon, with the added convenience of having them delivered directly to their doorstep. Furthermore, with inflationary pressures dragging on for what feels like a third consecutive year for many households, a growing number of American families are being compelled to make difficult choices, often forcing them to skip or significantly scale back on those small but emotionally meaningful celebrations that once punctuated the calendar. Party City didn't just sell decorations and plastic trinkets. It facilitated and sold moments. Moments like the entire family gathered around a table, laughing as they collectively blew up balloons for a little one's upcoming party. Moments when a group of friends convened one last time for a celebratory send-off before a beloved member headed off to college. Moments when parents, despite their own fatigue, meticulously set up a Halloween party in their living room, even if it was just for their 2 children and the equally excited family dog. Now, as Party City stores progressively disappear from the retail landscape, it signifies more than just the decline of a well-known brand. It serves as a poignant and rather alarming warning that joy, even the smallest, most accessible kind, is increasingly slipping away from the everyday lives of many working-class American families. And if even a small, home-based party transforms into an unaffordable luxury, one is left to ponder what remains of the American experience beyond the relentless cycle of bills, responsibilities, and a growing, pervasive silence where celebration once resided. As this video wraps up, we'd like to remind you to like and subscribe to our channel. Your support is vital for our channel's growth and helps us keep creating content. To be notified about new videos, remember to hit that bell icon. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.